So hey guys, hi. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to optimize your Node.js app with API caching, and also noted that we will be caching this API for a certain time interval, which we are going to talk about later in the video. So what is the our main goal is? So we will be hitting an API, let's say the Harry Potter characters, which actually by default gives us the response time, as you can see. And our main goal here is to use from the cache this time, and which gives the return value, as you can see, for to 15 ms. So this is our goal we have to reach. So before we start with this, we have to first set up the Redis itself. So the pre-requirement is first you need to install the Redis server and make it running. So how to do that is you have to run brew install Redis if you're using on Mac. Else I will send you the download link in the description. You can check it out on Windows. So once you have done with the installation, it took me time. Then what you need to do next is you have to start the service. So I'm starting with brew services, and I'm typing start Redis. Great. So once you have run the services, so I have to just restart it since I'm already running it somewhere around here. Restart Redis. You don't have to type this, you have to just type services start. Okay, so once we have started the services, now what we need to do is yeah, so what we need to do next is let's open another command prompt here, new window. So let's keep the other one running here, and here is where we will be
Alert from login items.
running
Background items added.
where we will be connecting to our Redis CLI, and then we will be getting the key which we are going to store in the Redis. So what exactly this key and all is that we will be getting know in the coming up time. So yeah, once we are done with the Redis installation, now let's minimize this. Now next thing is what we have to do is we have to make sure our Node.js server is running, and then let's move to the directory, and then let's do a npm init y. Great. Now what we have to do is we have to install three packages. So one is uh, the Express, then the Redis and Axios. Now let's press enter, and now let's wait for it to complete the installation. Great. So we have done with the installation. Yes. Now let's open this in VS Code, and now let's see the files inside it. Yes. Now let's create a file called index.js, and now we require the express, then we create a simple express server. So in this video we will be talking about Harry Potter API. We will be getting all the characters, which if we try to load, it takes time to come up, and then we will use to get the specific character based upon unique ID. We will be using these two APIs in this video as a reference. After adding the character, all we have to do is add the ID. Let's update our Node.js server. So here what we have done is we have required Axios this time, and we have created a sync function where we are actually defining our API URL, and based upon character we are actually appending the character to it, else we are returning all the characters to it, and this is how the request will be sent. Next, we will create two routes. One is the get character routes, where we will be sending an ID. From this ID, we will passing the ID to it. If the data is not available, we will throw this error. Now, coming back to our second route, we have the Hogwarts characters, and here what we will fetch the data from the API. If you are not passing anything here, it will anyway hit this character API. Once we have the data, we will again return from cache to false, and the data is characters. Data is the list of all the characters. This is how we have defined the routes. I've installed a Thunder client. You can get it from the extension, or else if you have Postman, you can use the same. Now let's try to hit this Hogwarts characters. As you can see, it's already shown 4450 ms to show near you. I've restarted my server, and remember this restarting server is required. Now let's try to hit the send here, The time which I get is 305 ms of the response. Let's improvise this. Our main goal is to improvise this code. Let's go back to our code here, and at the top let's require Redis itself. Make sure that we are connected with Redis. First define a Redis client at the top, and then we run this async function, which is actually required every time when you connect. We have started the server again. We have connected to our Redis server successfully. Let's go back to our this one Redis connector here. Let's try to update this code. I'll just show you what exactly I'm trying to do. We have successfully updated the code. First, we will define a Redis key. This Redis key can be any unique key. If you have used local storage in your Chrome browser, you always have to provide ID. We are providing forwards character here, and then in the results we will actually store the results what we get. So this result is can be the data from our cache, or it can be result from the API which we got, which actually took time. So then we define whether the cache is true and false based upon whether we are connecting from Redis or not. Okay, so what we do now is let's see the cache results. So what we do is first let's check whether we have the Redis client. Let's ask the Redis client. If the Redis says that, we make sure that is cache is sent to true, and the result is the JSON parse of this cache result itself. Else we will fetch from the database itself, and by default, since it is the cache is set to false only, it will never run this code. In the results, we don't have to worry about it. We will be passing it from the data which we are getting from the database. Next, once we have run this if else loop, then we will send the rest status and the value of its cache and the data of the results. Remember guys, the cache and the results are global and which are getting changed in between this if else loop. Okay, once we have done this, if we get any error, we will send a 404. The data is unavailable. So it's time to check the code. Before we start, let's restart the server. I've restarted the server. If you can see previously what we got the result of 305 ms. Now let's try to rerun. This is the first time we have set the Redis, but we haven't get the data from the Redis. Now if you can see, the response has shifted to 31 ms. As you can see, now this time the from cache value is set to true, and we are getting this data from the cache. Every time it's going since cache. But now tell me, is this really we wanted? There should be an expiry time to it, right? That's what we will talk about. Before that, you might be asking why I made you to install Redis. I made you to install Redis because I wanted to show you the key which we are storing is actually storing in the Redis. At the top here, we this is not required. We can close this. Now I think it's still running. Now I try to do a get, and it says key, right? We have stored the key as Hogwarts character. Now if I try to press enter, the response, as you can see, ID of 93547, both are same. We have actually stored here. Isn't that amazing? That's how we have done. Similarly to the get, you can have multiple, and you can set a value also. We have set it into the Redis. It's time to change something. The thing here is the data which we are setting into the Redis, now it's storing permanently. We don't want that. We want it to store for a finite time. Right? To do that, we create a JSON which with the following option. There are two things. One is the X, which tells how many seconds the Redis, and after that it will automatically expire. And the NX, which value which you see, tells that it like if the value is not set, then only it will execute. It will set the value. If it is already set, then this will not run, and it improves the performance. So what we do is, just for the demo of this purpose, let's make it to 10 seconds. Let me just take it here. I restart the server to 2 minutes here by 660 120, and then we have defined the NX value which sets the Redix to Redix only if it is not previously set. Instead of writing this for every API, let's define it somewhere here. So let's talk about this middleware for instance. So every middleware has something called next, which so let's talk about the parameter cache data middleware itself. We are taking the response and we are allowing it to forward next. First, we take the character ID passed from the request parameters ID. We will be passing the characters. So this id is what the parameter we are talking. We are setting the redis key. If the character id is set in the redis key with that particular param id, it can be an id of Harry Potter. This Harry is what we will be setting with it. Okay, nice. Once we have set the new redis key, for others it will be this redis key, and for the new one we will have a unique redis key. Once we have done this, let's first check whether we have the redis key or not. If we have the redis key, then we'll pass the from cache is to true, and else the JSON parts of the cache results. Else we will let it flow with the next, like the continue response, which will pass the from cache to true. So one thing here is, once we have passed this, we have to in our code also, not in this code, but fetch all characters. Let's take the whole code here. We have to change this, but in between we have to apply this cache data, which works as middleware, and which you see here to continue. We are passing the redis key here. We are hitting the fetch data from the API. If the result is not there, then we will set the redis key. First, it will try to return the data from the redis key. If the data from the redis key is present, then it will return this. This next will not work. I mean, the function fetching from the database is not run at all. If the data is not present, this whole function getting from the redx will not work. Due to this next, it will run this whole thing here. This one. We define the key and set the value to the redis key. Next time it will run till here, stop, and it will keep running till here until the redis key is not removed after this particular expiry time which we are providing. If it is not present in the redis key, it will automatically send from the cache with the data results. Enough of talking. Let's restart the server. Let's go to our test. Let's try to send the response. Our middleware is working. Every time I click on send, we get the value of 98 ms. And this is what the Redis with node.js works. I hope you like this video. So in this how code, as we learned that how application we can optimize it with API caching with Redis. In our example, we moved from 303 ms to around 9 ms. Whenever there is a hit, we also defined expiry to it. We also talked about the middleware, how to set it up. I hope this video was quite helpful. See you in the next video.